will divesting eliminate crimes against Black women? And this is kind of closely related to the other question that you sent in about, should Black women or Black men protect divestors? But what do you think? If more Black women start to date and marry white men, will that eliminate crime?
No, it won't.
Okay. Okay.
It's not possible. Because of so many. I mean, if we just random, if we're talking about like violence against women, so we're eliminating crime. If you even look at most of these crime shows, there's a lot of other people on there. There's a lot of Brads on there. There's a lot of Tims on there. There's a lot of, Jeremy's on there. Yeah. Okay, so again with this divesting point, if you think that you and Derek arguing and Derek tell you about your mama was a problem, wait until you get Brad mad, who's trigger happy. Let's see what happens.
He gonna take you to the lake. Run, sis.
Okay.
Run.
He gonna take you on a road trip.
Okay.
Well, I think too, I've had this conversation before with other Black men, and there's this idea that, like, in our culture, for better or for worse, I think men are kind of accustomed to backtalk. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that's okay, but in our culture, like, it's very common to have, maybe your mama was maybe the woman who was running your mouth, or your sister, you know what I mean? Or your auntie or whatever, your grandmama. And so it's like, you see a culture where it's like the women are very vocal and it's okay for them to be vocal. That's expected. Then if a man, if a Black man marries a woman like that, then he may be less inclined to see that as a threat. But some of these cultures, you know what I mean? You go to like, let's say a traditional Chinese family, or, you know what I mean? Indian family, or just other cultures where it's like, that's not necessarily the expectation. That's a culture shock. And if that man is feeling disrespected, God only knows what you can do. And then especially in a culture like America, where it's like, racism is still very real. And the way that a law treats a white man is very different than the way the law is going to treat a Black woman. Like, we can't act like that's not the case. And so there's a lot of complexity that goes into that. And so to your point, you can't just like overlook all those different things and think that you just marrying outside of your ethnicity means that, oh, it's just all going to be, none of that matters. It's like, okay, it does matter to a certain extent, and you need to take that into consideration. And white men, I don't think are as accustomed, or at least in their culture, I don't think it's as accustomed for women to just clap back. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
Right. So, Chantel, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely agree. And then also I want to stress that there's some kind of cultural loyalty, cultural loyalty to your own. I remember when the random snowstorm hit in Texas this year in February, and where I live is predominantly Indian. It's a lot of Indian people in the community, right? And my car got stuck. And the Indian guy was walking by, and he tried to help for a bit, couldn't move. Then he was like, okay, bye. But then I was talking to my sister. And say, if it was a Black man, or even, if it was a Jamaican man, he would have got my car out the snow. And even flip, if I was an Indian woman, he would have got that car out the snow, because they have a sense of cultural loyalty. You look out for your own. So these women thinking, oh, I'm going to just jump fence and go over and think that I'm going to be protected. And to the question, to the super chat, I don't remember who asked it, but asked if Black men should protect divestors. A common thing in our amongst Black women is to say, oh, we're not protected. Black men aren't protecting us. To River's point, you think these brads going to be protecting you? You think these brads are going to jump in front of the bullet like you're expecting these Black men to jump in front of the bullet for you? So if we think that that's going to solve our problem, no, it's not. And then also to River's point, we walk around thinking that, oh, Black men are just so abusive. And in the 40s and the 50s, Black men were just beating us left and right. Like they were just kicking us everywhere, flinging us down the stairs. That's not the case. Like the story I shared earlier, my friend who her first husband was extremely abusive, that was a white man. So we're thinking, oh, I'm a date outside and be protected, and these Black men are this, and these white men will never hit us. You'll be absolutely surprised. Not to say all white men are violent, obviously not.
Yeah, of course
but that sense of cultural loyalty. When a black man see you, he sees his sister, he sees his mom, he sees his family, he sees the people that he cares about. When a white man see you, he sees a black girl. Like, that's the common sense is lacking. We don't think these things through logically.
Can I say something too really quick on your point, Chantel? That's so true. And then when you get into an argument or when you buck up your chest and you're coming at him like you're a man, you know what he sees? A black man. So you know what he sees? Somebody that's innately, subconsciously beneath him. He's gonna treat you the same way he would treat somebody in the street. He's completely disconnected, completely forgot who he's with.
That's so true.
It's true.
Absolutely, absolutely. Danica, what do you think?
I want to go here with it, and I hope that I'm able to articulate this correctly. I don't know if we are taking into account the fact that if there's a majority of black women with black men and they are in relationships and things go down and there's a fight, by default, those numbers are going to look like, okay, well, black men must be way more abusive. But if we go to the other side and we go with, white men, the majority of black women go over to the, white culture or other cultures, it would probably be reflective. And then, are y'all understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes,
Like,
yes,
of course, it's going to look inflated when you're with that group of people. So if you were to go over to the other side, those numbers would also increase. So to answer your question, no, it wouldn't go down or go away. It would just increase on the other side. You know what I mean? Like we're really not taking into consideration the fact that, it's about proximity and who you're in a relationship with, who you're surrounded by, who you're with at that time, so on and so forth. Those things are factoring into these numbers, into these women having in their minds that, black men must be more abusive. No, it's just the fact that majority of us are with black men, and so by default, it looks that way. But go over there with Brad. He's going to take you to the lake, sis. Okay. He going to say it's going to be an increase in homicide. Let me just shut up. It's going to be an increase in drowning versus somebody, maybe, hemming you up a little bit. So just keep that in mind, y'all. It looks that way because you're over here with black men. If you go over there, those numbers are going to rise over there as well. So you're not eliminating anything. You're not saving yourself anything. If anything, it's just going to transfer over.
Transfer and blame. That's it.
Right. And you hit in a great point, Danica, because, I see this sometimes in different conversations where they talk about, oh, well, 1,000 black women have been killed within the last month, or, 1,000 black women, however many women have been in domestic violence from black men. So they'll pull out these numbers, and it's like, while I'm not trying to make light of those situations, what they don't do is actually look like, okay, well, what's happening also in the other communities? Because if you paint a picture as if, okay, this is only happening in the black community, and you don't see that, okay, it may be a similar rate, if not a higher rate, among white communities, Chinese, Latino, whatever, then it's like you're kind of creating this false narrative, and you're making it seem like, oh, this is just a black male problem, when it's like, no, this could be a societal problem that has something, it has zero to do with race. It could be something else, but they don't look at that. They just look at just what's happening here and kind of paint this narrative. And it's like, the reality is white women are usually more abused by white men, right? Chinese women are going to be more abused by Chinese men, Mexican women, because they're in close proximity to each other. And that trend is all across the board. So we're a little bit disingenuous when we just say, oh, well, black men beat black women the most. It's like, well, that happens all across the board.
And if I can add,
yeah.
If I can add, we see white women complaining about the patriarchy and how the men are like, so white common sense wouldn't tell them that.
Right.
Like we see these white feminists, we see them saying, oh, we were abused in the 1950s. White common sense wouldn't tell them that, okay, yeah, Brad is gonna abuse me too. Especially I have a mouth on me more than those white women.
Right.
And this again feeds into, I'm sorry, this again feeds into that whole thing about like the supremacist mindset, white is right, they're better, they're this or that, because, the thought process behind like, oh, if I go over here, I'm going to be safe. From who? Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
What are you attracting?
Exactly. So for those of you who are on, please get the likes up. I'm gonna read through these super chats and shout out to. Okay, I don't want to butcher your name.
UFO
But
kamikaze.
UFO, thank you so much. You know, girl, I'm gonna have to play that dance. I just want to much love. I see great conversation. Okay, I have some other ones coming. I see hippity hip hop. I need to work on my English. It says, unfortunately, sisters can't recruit pick me's. Women can only be raised with values that cater to their strong, good men. Recruiting attracts chameleons that'll revert to their Western ways. I
Yes,
actually do agree that
me
it is
too.
a process. It is a process to go from being a GMO female, as Danica puts it, to actually learning what does it mean to be a woman that is a wife. Like that is a process. And so
Mhm.
I don't think, not to say it can't happen, I do believe it can, but it doesn't happen overnight. It certainly does
Right.
not happen overnight.
So you see, I want to add to that because like
Mhm.
when I think of this, I wasn't raised to be a pick me. I wasn't raised to be cater to your
Right.
man.
Uh-huh. Right.
Um, I think every woman, it's wired in us. God created us to want to be the helmet, to want to be second. But then we were programmed to think that, oh, I should compete with my man. I should do this. I think it depends on how far gone the programming is and their willingness to actually step back from that programming and go back to what they were wired to do. And so
Absolutely.
I agree with you to say you can't, or I agree with a comment to say that you can't recruit them, because I think you can't change somebody who doesn't want to be changed. So you can't go to a woman who's already made up her mind that I am as equal to a man, I'll never submit. Oh, the word submission, you
Right.
cannot try to convince somebody. And that was the same for me too. 10 years ago, if somebody was to say, oh, girl, submit, and so if 10 years ago, if I was watching this panel, there's nothing anybody on this panel could say to make me say, yeah, let me go submit. I had to desire to want more. I had to desire to be better. And then I came and found the information to make
Right.
me get better.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Absolutely. I see Snuggles with the $5 super chat. In all the cultures of Black women around the world, what culture do you think Black women are most submissive to their men and show it publicly? That's a good question. Certainly, if we're comparing Black women around the world, certainly not in America.
No.
I'm thinking maybe Africa, maybe where Western values are
Mhm,
not so
mhm.
prevalent, or where people are, Black people are living out their actual true experience. They're not kind of, you know, living another person's culture, if that makes sense. So
Mhm,
that
mhm.
would be my guess. Um,
I think it varies, yeah, for sure, and it
yeah.
also depends on the level of submission.
Mhm, mhm,
Because even in Jamaica,
Mhm.
right, like we have people who are definitely going to wash, cook, clean, and do all of these things
mhm,
to their man,
Right.
but we're still going to talk to them back. So I think it
mhm.
depends on like the level of submission for
You
sure.
know what, too? I would say I agree with River. I would say it depends also on the level of access that the countries. Because I would say Haiti. When I went to Haiti, we went to the
Mm.
country, and they didn't have. When I went to Haiti, we went so far in the country, they didn't know that Black people live in America. Like
Oh my
that
god.
was that far country. Like using I don't know what they call it in Jamaica. They call it pit toilets. I don't know what they would call it here.
Oh yeah, like the outside bathroom.
The outside bathroom that doesn't
Outhouse.
flush, don't have
Outhouse.
Oh,
yeah, that's so far deep into Haiti I went, and this was in
mm.
2011. So and those women in the country or village wherever I went were very submissive. They were very feminine. They were, very, they catered to their men. There were roles. The men were in the bushes, the women were in the kitchen. There were roles. I think it will depend on the access to the internet and the access to this feminist brainwashing that
Strong
you get.
African ties, those
Yeah.
strong African ties. Yeah.
Hmm.
I remember when I was in Africa, the first time, that is something that I noticed, and it was to the point to where, like, there were certain things. It's like there were certain jobs that the women were doing, and then there were certain
Hmm.
jobs that the men were doing, and it was interesting to just see the way um, that they were living, and it was also to me was more interesting was like those kids were the most well-behaved kids I've ever seen. Out here, you done got some babies, kids that be running around. You see people talking back to their mama. Like it used to be a time where I felt like Black parents were known for having like good kids, but now that time doesn't exist anymore. You got kids talking back, you know what I mean, calling mama their first name, all kind of stuff. So when I went over there, I just seen the way the kids respected the parents and the way the parents respected the elders. Like there's very much a clear hierarchy of like we're not on the same level, and that's okay. Like you still have value, but we're not on the same level, and just the society seemed to move so smoothly. So
one point before we move on, one point on that topic that you just said about kids. You know why? Because if we okay, you know the saying used to be, "Oh, I'm gonna tell your dad," right? We get the fathers out the home.
That's facts.
Then we have the mama in the home that's raising the kids. But these kids, you have them all up in grown folk business. They see the foolishness that you have going on. They see the drama that you have going on. They don't trust your judgment anymore. So when you tell them to do something, they're looking at you like boo boo fool. Like what you talking about? Because you can't even get your own life together. So how we gonna listen?
Right. Right. That's facts. That is so
facts. No discipline, no structure. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I was just please get those likes up. Tag anybody on this discussion who you think might find it interesting. We are talking about what do modern women deserve. So, okay, on to the next question, ladies.